Before I got my M16a1, I wanted one for a long time. And even now, I still think those rifles are really interesting, so this video today is just the 5 main M16s used in Vietnam. Now, before we get into that, I have a few things I want to talk about. First, I used 3 main sources for this video: the Retro Rifle Build Guide. Second, I used the Small Arms Review website. Third, I used RetroRifle.com. All 3 of those websites were really helpful in this video. They had a lot of close-ups, which were really, really nice. Second, I want to cover some things that I'm not going to talk about in this video. Number 1, markings. This can get way too specific, as multiple manufacturers have made this for the military over the years. 2, color. The main color for these rifles were gray and black. I couldn't find the exact information on which colors were right during the Vietnam War, not during the Vietnam War, etc. Number 3, carbines. Carbines are a video of their own, and I don't own any of them, so I can't really give as much information. And then number 4, in this video, I'm not going to be talking about non-visible parts. Those non-visible parts are really interesting, just like different buffers and those kinds of things that were used, but you don't want to be here for 4 hours. I don't have all of the rifles discussed in this video. I also don't have all of the perfect clone correct parts discussed in this video. So I will talk about the main features and supplement with pictures when I don't have them, and I'll try and include the sources for those pictures when I can. Alright, let's get to the tabletop view. Now, if you're interested in the adoption of these rifles, Ian McCollum at Forgotten Weapons has a whole video on the Colt 601 that goes over all of the adoption process and how this became America's rifle. Now, this rifle right here is pretty close to a Colt 601, which is really the first M16 that was used in the military. It didn't receive a military designation, which shows you how little it was used, but the Colt 601 was the first. Now, this is not a true 601. Number 1, you'll notice that the furniture is black and not the proper OD green. Also, the charging handle is off right here. It's supposed to be a triangle charging handle, and this has a T charging handle like you might be used to today. And the muzzle device is off. It's supposed to be a duckbill that has a little cutout right here. I'll include pictures. But then this is the later 3-prong style that we'll talk about in a little bit. Finally, if I open up that, you'll notice that the charging handle is in the black. It's not chrome like it's supposed to be. Okay, then there's a few things I want to show you that will stick around, but I still think are really important that I point out. Number 1, you'll see the stock right here. It does not have the trapdoor butt plate, and it has this style of sling swivel that extrudes from the bottom of the stock. Moving forward, no finger nub right here. This was all the way through the war. No forward assist. It's a slick side, as the Air Force didn't want those. And then if we keep moving forward, pencil barrel, and then this has the .625 gas journal right there. Later, those would be different, but if you're not used to these, that is something that is unique on the Vietnam rifles as well. Okay, so moving on to the Colt 602, which was adopted in the military as the XM, the X means experimental, XM16. Now that ditched the OD green furniture for the black furniture that we have right here. This rifle is much closer to a Colt 602 than a true 601. So black furniture. It also had the new flash hider and the new charging handle. Now, it did still have that chrome BCG that I do not have in here, but those are the major differences there. And this saw more testing in the Air Force. This wasn't used majorly by the Army at all. The Army went with the XM16e1, also known as the Colt 603. So that's where this rifle comes in. Now, I know this has some things that aren't clone correct. Haven't gotten the proper triangle handguards yet. They came with it when I bought the parts kit, but they were torn to shreds, so I recently sold those, and I'm planning on buying some more. I want originals, though, because, well, it's way cooler, and that can just get a little pricey. Okay, anyway, moving on to the main thing. The main thing that the Army wanted with this was they wanted their forward assist. Now, if you're used to seeing a forward assist on your AR-15, you're probably used to one that looks like this, where it has the round button. These are called by collectors the teardrop forward assist right here. Now, this obviously sparks a lot of debate for those of us who are gun owners today about whether or not you need a forward assist and that whole conversation, but we'll ignore that for right now. Number 2, the XM16e1 introduced something called a partial fence. So, this is the fence right here. This is a full fence, meaning it also goes around the mag release right here. The partial fence is just this strip right here, and it does not go around the magazine release. Now, why is that? Well, with the Colt 601, to disassemble it, you pull out that pin, and then this pin right here, and this is the 601 or the 602. So it had this pin right here, and then that pin has a little ball bearing, and that is how it stays in. Now, on your modern ARs, as well as the XM16e1 and forward, it introduced these captive pins. And this is actually, these two pins are the ones that came with my kit when I put it together. So it has these captive pins on both of them, and they don't move. That's why it was the partial fence. It helped hold that. The XM16e1 kept the 3-prong flash hider, as you see right here. And then finally, the XM16e1 kept the chrome bolt carrier group. This one is an M16a1, and that one has the phosphate bolt carrier group. So let's move into that. Okay, so the M16a1 transitioned to the full fence, not the partial fence. So this is a full fence, and I guess I should start from the back. It also introduced this trapdoor style butt plate. So these trapdoors are a little harder than your M16a2s. You really need to get, you really need a tool or something to get this open. The M16a2s and a4s made that a little better. And then it also included this fixed sling swivel. The earlier sling swivels were these ones that extruded a little bit, and then they rotated. M16a1 has that fixed sling swivel. And then it is supposed to have the actual triangle handguards. Like I said, I just don't have those right now. And then if we move all the way over to the end, it introduces the birdcage flash hider. And if you're used to your modern ARs, those birdcage flash hiders are only open on the top, and then the bottom is closed. However, the old M16s, they went all the way around. The reason that I've heard why they transitioned to the closed birdcage flash hider is that sticks and debris and stuff like that was getting caught in these prongs in the jungle, and so they wanted something where that wouldn't get stuck. Now, that does lose your twist this in barbed wire and pull the trigger trick, but I don't know how often that would actually be used anyway when you could just carry something to cut the barbed wire with. Here is an A2 style birdcage, closed on the bottom and opened on the top. And like I said, phosphate bolt carrier group right here. I think the M16a1 is probably my personal favorite. I just really, really like these a lot. I do personally really like forward assists, and I think the M16a1 has a lot of improvements. Also, in a number of ways, it really begins the process that moves into our modern AR-15s and M16s today, such as the phosphate bolt carrier group still used today, and the birdcage flash hider, albeit in a different form, still used today, as well as your trapdoor butt plate. And this style of sling swivel is still used on fixed stocks today as well. Now, the XM16e1 and the M16a1 are both Colt 603s. So typically you'll see 603 XM16e1 and 603 M16a1. Moving back to the 604, moving back to the Air Force guns, this one did have the partial fence, so it just had the fencing right here, looking like that, and did not have the full fence like right here. And it returned to no trapdoor in the butt plate and this sling swivel right here versus the more modern one we see today. Now, there are some weird things here. Since this one was adopted late and used for quite a while, basically any bolt carrier group is correct. So you can see the early chrome ones that didn't have the serrations, the early chrome ones that did have the serrations, like we saw for the XM16e1, just simplifying parts. And then you can also see the phosphated bolt carrier groups in here. So if this one had a partial fence, it'd be basically one of those. And then also, same kind of thing, it also could have either the 3-prong flash hider or the birdcage flash hider, just depending on if it's an early or a late model. Now, there are some things that I obviously missed. There's a whole lot of little changes that happened in between. For example, the earlier guns had holes like this in the safety and all these things, and I think the ping pong paddle right here changed a little bit from the 601 to the 602. There's a whole lot of little changes we could have gone over that we missed, but like I said, we wanted this to be a relatively short video. If you want a full video diving into things like a little hole right here or something like that, feel free to let me know in the comments, and I can try and do something like that in the future. But all of that being said, behold my stuff. I have 2 really cool clones of Colts from the Vietnam War that I lived on.
Which proves it's hard to get the best of a man named John.
John.